And we are back.
We're back, bumble bitches.
I don't even know what episode this is or what we're going to call it, but we are doing a normal Friday conversation piece. This will go to Patreon first, then go to YouTube later.
Yes.
On our way back from Vegas, I got sick. I'm almost positive I got COVID while I was out there, and I am able to talk finally, and I don't have a fever, but I can't breathe. So there'll be a whole lot of coughing, and I'm going to hopefully cut all of it out. But okay, so I have conversations that I want to have.
Okay.
But I want to do a quiz with you first.
I'm ready.
Okay. This is from the book Not Just Friends. If you guys are actually a member of Patreon, you already know about this book because we've been reading it on live streams. Mm-hmm. But there's a quiz I want us to take together. You have no idea what this quiz is about. I only had you write down the point system. And for those of you who are watching, the point system is 1 equals no, disagree completely. 2 points is yes, agree somewhat. And 3 points is yes, agree completely. Or 0 points is NA.
Okay.
1, 2, 3 are NA. We had problems trusting each other before we got married. Just write it down. You don't even have to answer it.
Okay.
Okay. Our marriage revolves around our children, or for childless couples, we disagree on whether or not we have want to have children.
Okay.
We're gonna go through, and you can give me the answers for all these. Actually, let's do it now. What was your answer for the first one?
Disagree completely.
Okay, you can give me the numbers.
Okay, 1.
And then 2?
1.
Okay. Third question. My partner spends too much time away from home.
1.
My partner rarely takes my side on anything.
My partner rarely takes my side on anything? Mm-hmm. You mean like agree on topics or?
It says takes your side.
I don't like that phrasing, but I'm going to go with 1.
Okay. We've grown apart.
1.
I have felt alone and unsupported at times of loss or crisis.
1.
We don't have equal input for important decisions.
1.
Which says a lot because I'm the final decision maker.
You are, yeah.
We argue about the frequency of sex.
1.
Our interactions feel more like a parent-child relationship than one between equals.
1. It was so hard for me to focus on that. You just said sex.
That's funny. Just about died on a coughing fit.
Sorry.
We are uncomfortable about exposing our inner selves to each other.
1.
We sweep things under the rug, so we hardly ever fight.
We sweep things under the rug, so we hardly ever fight.
Yep. Just kind of brush it under the rug so we don't have to deal with it.
As a couple?
Mm-hmm.
1.
Okay. There's a disparity in how invested we are in the relationship.
And disparity means a different level.
Yep. That we are invested at different levels and it is unfair.
Oh, and that it's unfair. I'm overthinking the question. 1.
I mean, you can answer it 2 or 3 if that's what you're leaning
No, it's
towards.
not a 2 or a 3. Well, I think that we are invested at different levels because what I do is different from what you do as a man versus a woman.
Okay. Well, that speaks more to actions and not to our overall dedication to the relationship.
Okay.
So I would agree 1 also, but
Yeah.
I feel I can't influence my partner to do what I request. I love the way that's worded.
1.
Okay. I don't know if I really love my partner.
1.
We don't
Holy
know.
shit.
We don't know how to repair after a conflict.
1.
And the last one is we don't have much in common.
1.
So to keep score, you add up all of the number of points to interpret your relationship vulnerability score.
Okay.
You answered 1 to everything. So did I.
Correct.
Our answer was 16. 16 to 20 means that you have a safe harbor.
Okay.
21 to 29 means that you're in choppy waters. 30 to 39 means rough seas. And 40 to 48, watch out, you're headed for the rocks.
Oh, man. That's intense.
It says to take another look at those statements that you rated 2 or 3, and you and your partner can work on the issues to build a better marriage. Sharing your responses will give you another way to discuss the marital lifeline.
Marital.
And the relationship patterns discussed in this chapter. It is important to realize that your relationship vulnerability score is not a predicator of infidelity. It is an assessment of your marital adjustment Remember that affairs can and do happen in good relationships, which I'm going to end up passing this to you in a minute because I'm having a hard time with the breathing and talking at the same time without having a coughing fit. Just as there are happily married people who are unfaithful, there are also many dissatisfied individuals who remain faithful because of the individual or cultural factors. The relationship vulnerability map is one component that should be considered along with the vulnerability maps in the next 2 chapters. And we're going to get into one of these chapters, but not only are you going to read it, I also want to point out that this said on here that because of individual or cultural factors, as we glorify cheating in the media and sex scandals become a fucking big hot topic, and
and your happiness comes first.
And it's more and more normalized, and it's more and more accepted that this is just the way it's supposed to be. You looked at the hijacked red pill thread, red pill movement thing. That's another one of those things that really just makes people believe that it's just okay to cheat. So I'm going to pass this to you, and this goes into the State of the Union, and it goes from the highlighter to the highlighter on the next page.
Hi, Audible. This is my audition. Okay, so from the highlighter on this page to highlighter of the next page.
Yep.
Your chaotic, I'm not going to be very honest with you. Your chaotic highlighting kind of gives me anxiety.
I did it left-handed too.
Really? Well, that's kind of impressive, actually.
That's why I missed the first one so much.
Yeah, but that's not that bad. It went from being anxiety to being, I'm impressed. See, this is why context matters.
That's funny.
All right, the State of the Union. There's a lot to be learned by comparing the differences between monogamous marriages and those in which infidelity has occurred. The couples in my clinical practice fill out relationship questionnaires at the onset of marital therapy. The statistics presented in this section on the State of the Union are the results of analyses from these clinical couples, unless otherwise indicated. I was interested in examining what relationship factors distinguished between faithful and unfaithful spouses of the same sex, and how unfaithful husbands differ from unfaithful wives.
And that matters.
I never thought about that.
It's very different. This book shed a lot of light on cheating. It's changed my view on things quite a bit.
I'm going to have to get this on my Kindle. The case examples and my research findings may validate what you observed in your own relationship, or they may not seem applicable. Audible, I will do that a lot too. Nevertheless, knowledge is power. Wouldn't it be crazy if someone from Audible was like, you know what, this is kind of worth it? That'd be so funny. Nevertheless, knowledge is power. Understanding what, if anything, typifies the dissatisfactions of unfaithful partners can provide an informed perspective on your own marriage. A common vulnerability leading to infidelity is the disillusionment that develops when expectations about marriage are not met.
That's a good point.
That's a massive statement. The disillusionment that develops when expectations about the marriage are not met. I read a statement today from somebody that said, I've been with someone for 10 years and there is no drive in this person to do anything. And they were like that from very early on into the relationship. And I view that as having the illusion of somebody versus what they actually are in reality. Because after 10 years, it's kind of set in stone at that point.
Right.
All right.
But I think that the problem is that who you are 10 years from now is not who you are right now.
You shouldn't be.
Right. You shouldn't. But even I think that there are people who will stay in the same place, but they'll still change. And this falls back on what we talked about on the live stream, that people will get into a new relationship or cheat and have a very different relationship with that person because they have grown and they're stepping out of who they're supposed to be living as to be who they believe they are, right? Mm-hmm. And I think they're about to get into that.
Individuals with high expectations can be easily dissatisfied because they expect more than any one relationship can reasonably provide. Another really good example of that is a partner who relies on their significant other, spouse, whatever, to be their therapist, to be their best friend, to be the decision maker of their life, to be their scheduler, to be the person who makes their appointments. and they don't have any friends. They've secluded themselves off from the rest of society, and they lean onto their person for everything in their life. And then when that person can't be that, then all of a sudden, oh my God, what am I doing with this person? This relationship isn't what I thought it would be. And it's a repetitive pattern throughout relationships. Did all that make sense?
It did. Now let's add the person who works a full-time job, takes care of the house, is the primary caretaker of the children, while the other person does a normal part-time job, if that, and doesn't do anything. That whole thing gets magnified.
Yeah.
Now you have a very big unbalance where one person feels like they're doing everything and the other person is not a part of the team.
Right.
Which is what that speaks on.
Unrealistically high expectations can lead to affairs, just as undeniably bad marriages can. For today's woman, a good husband has to be much more than a good provider. For today's man, a good wife has to be more than a good mother. Both husbands and wives are looking to their spouses for love, companionship, intellectual stimulation, emotional support, and great sex in the high-stress environment of dual careers and little league carpools.
Yep.
That's literally what we just said.
But this is a very big cause of infidelity in relationships.
Because not all of those things can be met at
Right.
times. Especially if there is, for example, a financial stressor happening. Great sex is not going to be had
Nope.
when we are panicking about how we're going to make our mortgage.
Yeah, money destroys relationships fucking quick because of the stress that comes with it.
Yeah.
And that speaks on safety and a whole lot of other things too, which we may get into in this episode, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, now I'm curious. Like, what do you mean?
Let's get through the book part of it first because it might be in the book.
Oh. I'm going to write down just in case.
Okay.
An attractive person who appears to offer any of the components missing from this picture of perfection can be very tempting. Because women appear to have higher relationship expectations than men, both faithful and unfaithful wives are much more dissatisfied with numerous aspects of the marriage than are their husbands.
Okay, before you move on, why do you think that is? Why are women harder to please in a relationship than men?
Because we're more emotional creatures.
Okay. I'm almost positive it's about to get covered.
Yeah.
But that also explains why women initiate divorce at 70 to 80% of divorce initiates. Okay.
I see wives in marital therapy each week who begin with a proposed agenda for change and a list of specific complaints. They have thought long and hard about what is missing in their marriages. When I ask husbands what they would like to change, they frequently answer, I just want her to be happy. Husbands report, we had a great week because they had no conflict. Their wives will report about the same week, we had a terrible week because they didn't have much verbal intimacy or emotional closeness. My bread is done. I'll be right back.
All right. While she does that, this is a great time to tell you guys about this. Boom. I know how much you guys like my shirts that say things like defund politicians. We have a coupon code through Relentless Defender. To be better is the code. So if anybody wants to buy shirts, the shirt that I have that says Noah was a conspiracy theorist until it started raining, that's available on there. Just use the code at checkout to be better. Let them know that we sent you over there. Also, while we're paying some bills, shout out to Matrix Hormones. Had my blood work done before we went to Vegas, and my fucking red blood cell count was through the roof again.
Yeah. Got that ketchup blood.
Yep. So I've been getting blood dumps again, and I'm other than getting sick, I've been feeling great. It's amazing how they told me that they wanted me to be doing my blood labs every month, and I was like, I can do it every 6 months. I'll stay on top of shit, and I don't.
You didn't.
And they got on me about it, but they got me squared away again. And I can tell you guys personally that when I'm not on my regimen through Matrix, my sleep schedules are way wrong. My libido is way down.
You're a different man.
My attitude is way up. Like the depression is there. It's a whole thing. I'm glad that you're actually able to recognize that it's not me in those moments.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to recognize how important hormones are to every individual. And like we know how important estrogen is to women because when you have hysterectomies, it becomes prescribed. Like it's a vital hormone for you guys to function. But up until the last 5 or 6 years, testosterone has not been talked about like that. We need that as men. So if you have any symptoms, and I'm going to actually, you know what? I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna record a blurb for Matrix Hormones
And put it in.
and that way we can just cut it and put it in every single time. I'm not doing it right now, but
Okay.
So yeah, guys, go to matrixhormones.com, click on the new patient, fill out the release form, and then click to be better sent you. It'll save you $200 on your initial consultation. On $200 on your initial consultation, which is a big savings.
It is, yeah.
So
you want to know how I know that I'm a petty parent?
why?
The kids were kind of dicks today, and I just made some blueberry breakfast bread. And I wanted to walk out there and be like, hey, kid, you want to smell this? Doesn't it smell good?
You don't get none.
You don't get none of it right now. And then just bring it back inside.
It's funny.
Yep. Okie dokie. Back into the book.
All right.
So the husbands would say we had a great week because they had no conflict. And then their wives would report about the same week we had a terrible week because there wasn't verbal intimacy or emotional closeness or as much as they anticipated.
Right. Go ahead.
You go first.
It just goes to show that, like, the way that we view things. If things are good in the home and everything feels at peace, we're fucking content. Mm-hmm. So if we're viewing, and you and I have actually had this, I have viewed our week very differently than you have because you are going through an emotional whatever you're going through at the time. And I'm just happy that we're not arguing and the kids are fucking taken care of. And, you know, we had a good dinner and maybe a photography date or whatever, and things feel good. The underlying emotional aspect of things for you is not the same for me. And I never view it that way because if everything is good, we're good.
Yeah.
Women obviously don't see things that way.
No. Yeah, it's definitely, I was going to say we're like two boats that are like connected, but that wouldn't make sense because then we would have to be going through the same rough waters.
Right.
I can't be on the other end of a 5-foot rope fucking going through it with a hurricane and you're just over there peachy with sunshine.
It definitely wouldn't have worked.
Right.
Not having lockers on your vehicle.
Yeah.
And one tire stuck in the mud spinning and the other one's moving and slowly moving the car.
Yeah.
This is me. Like, yeah, this is nice. And you're like,
Yeah. I also want to point out that it boiled down to emotionals. Oh
Yep.
my gosh.
feelings.
Feelings. The emotionals. That's going to be a thing I say now.
Okay.
Are you getting in your emotionals right now? Yeah.
It's funny.
What an accident. What could be some solutions for couples or women specifically? I'm asking the question, then I'm going to answer the question. So what can women do in a relationship where they feel that there's not a lot of verbal intimacy or emotional closeness? Open your mouth and talk about it. That was so hard for me to do, guys. Actually bringing my feelings to my man. Oh my gosh. But I can't be mad at my husband for not understanding what I'm going through if I haven't verbalized what I'm going through.
Right.
And I have gotten really good about, I'm being clingy right now. I want to sit on your lap. I want you to rub my feet. I want to live in your skin for a little bit.
I can't serve you if I don't know how to serve you.
Right.
And you can't expect me to know how to serve you if you don't fucking tell me what you need.
Yeah.
So
if I need emotional closeness, I'm going to tell my husband I'm having a really hard day. Can you just sit here and listen to me complain for 30 minutes?
Right.
And pat my head while you do it because that's soothing for me.
there's a loss of ego when you are willing to accept the fact that your partner doesn't live your existence.
Mm-hmm. Because you are not the center of the universe. Mm-hmm. Emotional affairs can be the consequence of emotional deprivation in the marriage, or they can be the source of diminishing emotional closeness. Unfaithful wives frequently are aware of being unhappy long before they get involved with another man.
Men normally are too if they're cheating out of unhappiness.
Yeah.
Although, like I said earlier, they have relationships that there's infidelity even in a happy marriage.
Yeah. This is probably the underlying reason that wives and female therapists tend to blame infidelity on problems in the marriage more than do husbands and male therapists.
Because men can cheat and not have the emotional attachment to a woman. It could just be something that happened.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it. Where you guys are emotional creatures and you guys tend to attach emotionally to the people that you sleep with and we don't.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Am I prepared to say this?
I don't know. Fuck around and find out.
Oh, I knew I loved you after the first time we had sex, but I really, really had to play it cool because I knew that didn't work that way with men.
Because I'm that good.
Well, it was a lot of things. But there was a lot of emotional attachment there for me.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't ever just sleep around, because I know how I work in that aspect.
Right. You're aware of it, though.
Yeah.
There's so many people out there that believe that it doesn't work that way for them, and it's biological. It does. There might be a small group of people in the whole that it doesn't work for like that. But for the most part, this is a pretty broad thing across the spectrum of men and women.
Yeah. Unfaithful husbands, on the other hand, often regard their marriage as happy until they begin to make unfavorable comparisons between their wife and their affair partner. Randy became disappointed by the lack of intellectual interest that he shared with Rihanna only after he experienced Sophie as a kindred spirit. In the final analysis, he decided this was not a good enough reason to abandon his family and a devoted wife who had never been anything but loving towards him.
That comparison is a big deal, though. And a lot of bad things will happen with those comparisons because you realize that the person that you're trying to talk to, I'm trying so hard not to have another coughing fit. The person that you're talking to is going to bring something into your life that your partner doesn't. And that's why a lot of men will start getting engaged and involved with people because there's something there that's not being fulfilled.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that, well, that scenario was very specific about intelligence and their ability to talk, but I think a lot of that comes down to making sure that you are still close to your person and the boxes are being checked.
Yeah. My airport study indicated that 56% of men and 34% of women who had extramarital intercourse said that their marriage was happy.
Which means both men and women can have sex and not do it like because their marriage is fucked up. I think that speaks to character too. I think that it speaks to thinking you'll never get caught. Like there's so much that goes into that. This book has really got me like trying to understand the cheating aspect a whole lot different.
Hearing that number, 56% of men cheated on their wives and they were happy in their marriage, is terrifying to me.
Yeah.
Fucking terrifying. And I don't even know how many people were in the study. This could have been 10 couples.
Yeah.
And 56% of that is from 10 people, or 10 couples. But that's just an astronomical number. For men and women in empty marriages, affairs may provide what's missing. In stormy marriages, affairs may provide consolation and comfort. Unfaithful husbands and wives were more dissatisfied with marital companionship and being in love with their spouses than those who were faithful. People in affairs with deep emotional attachment and sexual intercourse, combined type affairs, are not only more likely to be unhappy with their marriages, but also more likely to end up divorced. Because more women engaged in combined typed affairs with men, involved women are more dissatisfied with their marriages than are involved men. Involved wives in marital therapy were also significantly more dissatisfied than the unhappy wives who had remained faithful. In contrast, involved husbands who engaged in primarily sexual affairs weren't any unhappier than non-involved husbands. That's insane to hear. Absolutely insane to hear. I could never have a one-night stand.
I'm glad.
Thinking back to like my 18 and 19 years. 18 or 19 years old, because there was a lot of alcohol involved there. So there's a possibility of a one-night stand, but I don't recall it, so I don't count it.
Yeah.
But it's unfathomable to me that that is how men's brains are wired. It's just crazy.
Okay, so then from a borderline standpoint, people who have borderline are normally very promiscuous. Like that's a very common thing for people who have BPD. And it doesn't mean that they're going to be unfaithful. Some of them are faithful to a fault because of their abandonment and their favorite person connection shit.
Yeah.
But there is a me thing. I need to not feel the way that I feel, so I'm going to go fuck 5 other people or whatever it is that they're going to be doing. What does that say about the emotional aspect of all of that? Because now it's being done from a place of harming yourself. Because that is a
form
harm
of self-harm,
thing,
yeah.
right? Like it's not. Well, I view this. Okay, so the reason I say that is because of the people who like, cutters or
Right.
people who get tattooed because they want that release. Sex does the same fucking thing.
Right.
It's the same center of the brain for pain and
pleasure.
And pleasure. The same dopamine release. You get And it's prolonged if it's a flirting thing, because it's not just to go get a tattoo and call it a day. Like, it's days or weeks or months leading up to the actual act.
Yeah.
And then, like we said earlier in the book, like not on this episode, but on the last live stream, that people do it, feel guilty, and then do it again to try to make that guilt feeling go away, which doesn't make sense to me. If you would think that if it doesn't feel good or you feel guilty, you would stop. But I think the dopamine response that you get from interacting with those people, not including the sexual aspect of it, is what makes them want to keep doing it.
Well, I'm almost certain, don't quote me on this because I read this a while ago. The chemicals released when you are having sex or you are falling in love and you're chasing lust, P-brain, is the same thing as getting like a dope hit.
It is.
People doing meth know they shouldn't be doing meth.
Right.
All right. Husbands who described their affair as more emotional than sexual had much lower marital satisfaction than non-involved husbands.
Right, because they're in it for the external factors and not the sex.
Right.
They want what their partner is not able to give them.
Yeah.
I get that. I really, truly get that. And I understand, like, that's where my understand of polyamory comes into play. Because though I disagree with it, and I have a hard time being in a relationship with one woman, there's no fucking way I'd be able to make that a happy life with multiple women.
Is it hard to be with me?
No. Well, this is great. This is amazing. But up until our relationship, it hasn't been amazing. It's been a fucking mess. We check each other's boxes, and I have the pot of gold at the rainbow now. But I didn't have that before. The idea of having, we've talked about this in the past too, the idea of having different friends who provide different needs in a relationship, it's no different when it gets to emotional cheating and infidelity. The only difference is I'm not trying to fuck my best friends. Mm-hmm. And if it was an opposite sex person that was my best friend, eventually that line would get skewed because I'm a fucking dude who's into women. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So I don't know. I think that in a queer or a gay bisexual relationship, they would need to be more aware of that when it comes to their best friends, because the attractions could happen. You add a mental illness on top of that, like borderline. Now they start thinking they're in love with their best friends. Like, it can create a whole lot of fucking mess.
Mm-hmm. In my clinical sample, among those who had engaged in extramarital sexual intercourse or other physical intimacy, 59% of men and 79% of women rated their marriage as unhappy. John Huber and Peggy Horoff conducted intensive interviews with almost 500 affluent Americans who are married for more than 10 years and concluded that affairs may not only compensate for bad marriages, but also occur in marriages that were judged to be good. Reasons for infidelity were linked to the type of marriage, an outlet for hostility in conflict-habituated marriages, an outlet for boredom in a passive, congenial marriage, or the recapture of lost romance in a devitalized marriage. Infidelity was rare in total marriages where partners were bound together by psychological, intellectual, and recreational compatibility.
Okay. So that you asked me a minute ago if this is hard. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, because you check all the boxes. We are that couple. We have the same hobbies. We enjoy talking to each other. We have fun when we're together. We can disagree and fucking still laugh about things and just live our lives. If there's something that's missing, we can have the conversation, and we love each other enough to want to make the change. Mm-hmm. I think that there's too many people that are involved with somebody that doesn't mesh with them, and they're not willing to just accept the fact that this isn't my person, that they stay around long after they should have, and they get hurt.
Right.
Physically, emotionally, whatever. Infidelity. Because sometimes we believe that this is our person, but deep down we fucking know we're miserable and we just don't want to walk away from it because it's comfort. It's comfort. We're, mm-hmm. The devil I know. Like,
right.
It's wild to me to think, like, because as we've done this, my life opinions have changed quite a bit. The amount of information that we've gotten has helped me look at things from a more analytical standpoint, or maybe even just new understanding, because it's things that I would have never thought about before. my idea of not everybody belongs with each other is super fucking strong now. But I also have spent years of my life miserable as fuck and depressed. And I know what that felt like compared to what it feel like to come out of that. And I don't want to ever go back to that again. And that comes into the protect your peace mindset. So it's a lot to think about.
It is a lot to think about.
Was that the last highlighter thing? Okay.
That was it, yeah.
What was the thing that you wrote down? Did we touch on it?
Safety and not expecting crazy sex in high stress environments. And my question was, why is there a safety in that? Because I never correlated that to like, if you want to have sex, I'm like, no, babe, today was a really hard day for me. I never correlated that to a safety.
Well, a woman's intimacy is directly attached to her safety. We know that. We've talked about that for years.
Right.
So if you feel unsafe in your marriage, it's going to take a whole lot more to get you going. That book also at some point in like 2 or 3 chapters from there says that women are, men can use sex to decompress and relax, and women need to be decompressed and relaxed to have sex. Like that's the way that our bodies and brains work. So for us, we can have a really hard day, have some really aggressive, amazing sex, and then be completely relaxed. You guys have a really hard day. You don't want to have rough, aggressive sex.
Really?
Most women. But if you had a really fucking stressful day and you were exhausted, tired, and I came home and I did the dishes, got the kids' homework done, got them bathed, and got them to bed because I knew you were fucking tired, that 2 to 3 hours of downtime where you got to not have to worry about shit would increase my chances of getting laid astronomically.
Right.
Because you are no longer exhausted. Mm-hmm. You got to see me do the dad thing or the husband thing, and your needs are being met. It is an act of providing. It's crazy to change your perspective on things because you hear women say all the time, you want to see your man fucking do the dishes, tell him he's sexy doing the dishes. And that's a manipulative thing to me. I understand that like it works. You're influencing our decision because we want to make you happy. But for you guys to be like,
it's not a genuine compliment at that point. You're just telling them that to make them do it more.
Right, it's manipulation.
Yeah.
But if men understood that their sexy time was correlated to the level of rest and lack of stress that a woman has in her life, they would probably get laid a whole lot more. And this also ties back into the money aspect. When money's fucked up, relationships get fucked up. Power struggles start happening in the relationship. People start getting mad about who's spending what. Like there's a whole lot of ugliness that comes from that. And you add all of that on top of everything else that's already going on in a relationship, and it makes it so much worse, but it comes down to the stress factors of it. Mm-hmm. I have a couple other things that I want to get into. This episode is kind of all over the place.
Okay.
Because I really wanted to just do that quiz on here to see if we would answer the same.
Okay.
And then to see how you felt about the chapters. Is there anything in that you read that you want to talk about before we segue?
No, I feel like we touched on all of it.
Book's pretty wild, huh?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to get that on my Kindle.
What's it called again, and who's the author? It's on our recommended reading list.
Not Just Friends by Shirley P. Glass, PhD, with Jean.
Okay.
Kopak Stahili.
So this is a discussion piece. I literally made 2 notes. I'm going to read them and we're going to discuss it.
Okay.
So the amount of emails that we get that are attention-seeking emails, would you agree that a lot of them are that?
Yes.
Okay. So I wrote down seeking attention from us instead of your person, going to the internet to complain in the comments or make videos, because that's commonplace in society now.
Yeah.
Okay. Second thing I wrote was instead of taking the time to talk to your person and wonder why you have resentment, you are making the decision to do the other things, which is taking away the ability of your partner to solve your problem. Mm-hmm. This falls in this, to me, this is like going to a drive-through, and when they go, hey, how can we help you? You go,
Nothing. Fuck you. Yeah.
Sir, would you like something to eat? You should know what I want. This is my McDonald's.
Come here every week.
Right. You bet you know who I am. So why do you think it is that we have made it acceptable to go to friend circles, go to the internet, go to the comment sections, go to actually making videos shaming our partner and spending all of that time and effort and energy into doing those things versus spending the little bit of time and effort it would take to make change in our relationships?
First thing that comes to my mind is unwillingness to change their own actions.
As in, like, they expect their partner to change and not them?
Yes. Or they have lived their whole life thinking that they can never be a problem.
Okay.
Especially if their friends or family hype them up as that.
But these people, there's no way that these people don't know that they're the problem or that their life is not good. Even if you have people that are like, girl, you deserve more than that. Fuck him. He's a problem. You're a girl, slay queen, blah, blah, blah. You know that your life is a fucking mess because you deal with the drama that's in it all the time. Like, you have to at least, maybe not in that moment, but at least at some point throughout the day, be like, damn, this really fucking isn't it. My life sucks right now. At some point, you think about that and like what you need to do to find change. And a lot of times people just think it's changing their person instead of changing their character. Sorry, I'm done.
It's okay. So as somebody who had that mindset in the past, I fully believed that I was not the problem. I fully believed it. I was living in delusion.
But how is that working with your life? Because your life wasn't good.
My life wasn't good, and I blamed it on everybody else. It's who I'm with. It's the people that I'm working for. It's my coworkers. It's my family. It couldn't possibly be me because I feel bad when I do things wrong, and I don't feel bad about anything I'm doing right now because it's feeding my needs.
Do you think that that has anything to do with social expectations?
Elaborate on.
Well, this ties back into what I said earlier in the podcast or this episode about people who, how did I word that? You get to a point where like the things that are around you become so normalized, like the cheating in movies and music and TV, and like it's just become such a normal thing,
right?
That the more it becomes normal. Okay, here's a really fucking good example because it just flashed in my brain. Like, this can take a lot longer to explain than that.
Okay.
1970, 1980. Could you imagine there being a movie made at that time frame like Saw? Better yet, The Boys. Could you imagine a single episode of The Boys being on television in any capacity?
No.
Even on HBO?
Because of the violence and the gore.
Because there's no way we can show this. Mm-hmm. But from 1970 till now, they've just sprinkled a little more in and a little more in and a little more in and a little more in. And now we'll watch somebody shrink themselves and crawl into somebody's butthole and then explode. And we're okay with it. Like, nobody thinks anything of it. We watched A-Train run through somebody and explode them on the very first episode of The Boys. And we were like, oh, shit. We are desensitized to the violence and the things that we see because it has become such a normal part of our lives. So how much of that is because of that? And does that speak on the social circles and what we ingest?
Yes. So yes to all of that. I have been moving further and further away from watching television. I have uninstalled multiple streaming apps for my phone. I'm down to YouTube and Netflix. And it's because Netflix has my comfort shows that I listen to on repeat, and then YouTube to listen to like Jordan B. Peterson or catch up on news, whatever.
Or the To Be Better podcast.
And I have noticed a difference in the way that I think.
Same.
I still listen to like true crime stuff, murder mysteries, all of that good stuff. That used to be my 14-hour listen. Like every day, I would wake up and I would listen to murder mysteries and missing people and kidnap stories and all of these awful things. And after about 3 months, I recognized that I put myself into my own depression because now I'm focused on the safety of the kids. I'm terrified to leave my house because I could be kidnapped.
Ooh, I never correlated that with you. That makes a lot of sense because you are overly afraid of being grabbed.
I am. Absolutely terrified. And it's been years since I've listened to true crime podcasts like that. When I was working for a beverage company as a merchandiser, I would be up at 4 o'clock in the morning and then I'm not getting home until 6 or 5 o'clock at night.
And that's all you had in your earbuds.
And that's all I would listen to.
Wow.
Was true crime, murder mystery, missing people. There was this girl on YouTube a while ago. She left YouTube because her doing all of the murder mysteries and missing people destroyed her.
Didn't you say she got like mentally sick and like her hair fell out and shit? Is that the same person you were telling me about? Or am I making that up? I might be making that up.
Yeah,
I might
I
have
have
that
no idea
confused
what
with
it
something
is.
else. That's all right. I get the deleting of the apps.
Yeah.
We've been watching Critical Role
Almost every night.
Right. I don't want to say the F word as much.
Me either.
And now I'm actively trying not to. And when we're done with this and I edit it, I'm going to type in the F word and see how many times we actually said it in this episode. Excuse me. And watching Critical Role and going from the nerdy ass voice actors that were fun and loving to having the new characters that are dropping the F-bomb so much, it's kind of a turnoff for me. Because it feels forced. That's not how those people talk in real life. And maybe it is, but you don't say the F word 3 times in a single sentence with 2 other adjectives.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it just...
Unless you're making things up on the fly and you're using it as a comma or a filler.
Right. And people do that. So like that has become an awareness of mine. We watched, we tried to watch that Generation Z, which is the spinoff of The Boys. We watched like 2 episodes.
Oh gosh, no, we didn't even get past the first episode.
It was only the first episode?
We watched the first 10 minutes of it and I was like, I'm not comfortable with this. And you're like, me either.
Okay, well that was because there was an episode where a young girl who was she was getting her first menstrual cycle.
And that happens young.
It happened very young for her, and there was blood everywhere. But the scene that got me was they showed her underwear hit her ankles.
They showed her pulling them down
Right.
to use the restroom. Yeah.
Right. You couldn't see any of her private parts, but why the fuck does that need to be in a television show?
Right.
So that falls back onto what I was saying about shows
Trying
like
to
The Boys.
desensitize us.
The more we see things like that, and the less we go, wait a minute, why the fuck did they just show me a fucking 13-year-old girl's underwear? We see that 3 or 4 times. Now it's just normal television. We don't feel bad about it. Next thing you know, we're going to actually see the private parts as the girl takes her things off because they're programming us to be used to this bullshit.
Right.
Last night before, when we were watching House of the Dragon, season 2, episode 1 of House of the Dragon, and they were looking for the eye patch guy to kill him, and they found the babies, there was, spoiler alert, you have like 3 seconds to skip ahead because I'm about to ruin the show for you if you haven't seen it yet. Okay, you've been warned. You can hear them beheading the baby.
Yeah.
You can't see it,
But you can hear it.
but you can hear it.
You can hear the bones. You can hear the flesh tearing.
Right. There's no reason for that. They literally could have had the mom scream behind a closed door, and that would have been all we needed to know.
Just
that
her
they
running
actually,
down the staircase.
Right.
Like,
Something.
They said it out loud. She left the room. We know what's happening.
Right. And so that's the first step of it. You know that The Walking Dead stopped showing child walkers and little walkers and like through a lot of the show, and every once in a while they would put a kid in there to make you go, oh man, like I forgot there were kids that were alive through all of that, because
It's shocking.
it's not something that our brains are good with dealing with. But the more we're shown that shit, the more we're likely we are to do it. I know that none of that is relevant at all to the book, but I do believe that the social programming and the things that we are ingesting are allowing us to make. You can even go as far as to say that the protect your peace thing that I'm saying all the time. Mm-hmm. If I say that enough to people, protect your peace, protect your peace, protect your peace, and you guys start ingesting that, and you're like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm empowered. I'm going to protect my peace, and something doesn't go the way you want it. Well, To Be Better says to protect my peace, kick rocks, motherfucker, instead of working through the problem. That can be a problematic situation. So like, even that I think needs to be, and I said the F word just then.
You did.
But that's one of those things that needs to be addressed as well. Like, how much programming are you going to ingest before you start to think for yourself and start weighing the actions of the things that you're taking in? Mm-hmm. We can make this a short one and just go on to the next one if you want.
Well, how long have we been recording for?
50 minutes. But there was also the bread get and the kids came in.
Now, yeah.
Do you have anything that you want to get into? Because our next one's going to be a finance episode. I have all kinds of notes. We had 3 weeks of no work.
No, I got nothing. I've been focusing on the women's group, and
How's that going?
it's going great. The private women's group is going phenomenally.
Are you enjoying it?
More than I anticipated I would.
Yeah.
I hit the group this morning with thank you guys for participating in this and for trusting me to provide you guys with quality and also interacting and building a community here. Because that's a big deal to me. I was worried that people would get in there and then nobody would say anything.
Yeah.
And I would be the one that would have to initiate conversations and have to push people to talk. And that hasn't been the case. And all of them gave back feedback about, I did not expect to get as much back as I already have from this group. And one of the girls said that she joined like a week ago and she was like, I'm already more invested in this than I thought I would ever be.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It means, so the people that are willing to invest themselves and really do the work are the ones who are going to get the most benefit out of it.
Yeah.
The cost is to prevent people from just taking advantage of being in there and wasting our time.
Right.
And it's the same way for us. But knowing that there are people in there who are already getting the benefit and growing and taking accountability for their lives is fucking huge. That's the feel good that I get from the men's group also. Okay, so then 2 more thoughts and we can wrap it up. Because one of these might be a long one. I made a note that said, my side of the story no longer matters.
Okay.
Because those people, those social circles and those circumstances no longer matter.
Okay.
And then when you move on, you need to truly move on. When I saw something that was like, your side of the story no longer matters, that was the extent of the sentence. Your side of the story no longer matters.
Period.
That was it. And I scrolled past it and I scrolled back and I'm like, what? And then I thought about it and I really started thinking about it. You get to the point where you are so wrapped up in defending yourself to people who really don't matter that much to you. The random people on the internet, the people who are acquaintances at work, the people that you think are your friends who are really not your friends. And you spend so much time, effort, and energy fucking invested in defending your character. You can never defend yourself against somebody who already has an opinion of you. If your situation between you and your best friend goes bad and there's a falling out and you guys can't reconcile that, it doesn't matter what they say or do like to others about you. Your life has to move forward. If you spend all of your time trying to navigate the things that other people are saying and doing because of things that happened in the past, you are not going to ever go anywhere. And while those people who are obsessive and being in busybodies and having opinions and trying to drag other people down, they are still going about their lives.
Talking shit while they're doing it.
You're just a topic of conversation while doing it. And while you may feel the need to defend yourself and clear your name and have, your side be heard, what would that really change in your life? Because the people who love you are going to love you even if you're a foul person, because they love you.
And they feel bad and they want the best for you.
Right.
It's a pity love.
I want to help them. Could be a whole lot of things, but you shouldn't have to defend yourself to those people. Mm-hmm. That comes into the conversations. Everything with me is leading lately because I've been sick and we haven't had a lot of conversations. With that thought process, it led into you and I having disruptions in the house. If I look at a disruption as a way that I can improve our marriage and serve you, I believe I'm going to be less likely to get defensive. I shouldn't have to defend myself to you because you love me. So even if I fuck up or you fuck up, I'm not going to hate you because there was a mistake made or because there was an offhanded comment or whatever. I'm going to understand that sometimes we're emotional people. We sometimes say stupid shit.
Yeah.
And if you apologize, and I know that it's sincere, there's no reason for us to have big blowups over it. So with that whole, your side of the story doesn't fucking matter. It even means as much in the way of those who love you versus those who don't. Because if they don't love you and they already hate you, your side of the story is not going to change their opinion. Right. And if they love you, your side of the story may not even need to be heard. It may just be like, hey, I really fucked up. I'm sorry that happened. I really want to try to be better. How can I serve you better? What can I do in the future to make sure that doesn't happen again? There's a lot that goes into that. And I know that for my personality trait and my need to defend me is one of my biggest character flaws. And it's something that I do work on. And there's a lot of times you'll say something and I'll have to count to get my brain to stop before I respond so that I don't just defend myself. I think that choosing my side of the story doesn't matter thing is going to be a big thing for me.
Yeah, hearing that's probably going to be a big thing for me too. One of my biggest character flaws is taking things personally.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've really, really had to work on. Hearing that your side of the story doesn't matter or doesn't matter anymore. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a lot to process. There's one conversation I can think of distinctively where somebody said that I called them a bitch, a piece of shit, a whore, and never did, but it was said to gain sympathy on their ends. And that's one of those things that I'm gonna have to let go because my side of the story doesn't matter. All the people who believe that story are choosing to believe it out of guilt or, like I said, pity.
So you have that memory in your head right now and that feeling. How many of those people are still actively in your life?
None.
We hold on to that shit. This also falls into the, if they gossip to you, they'll gossip about you.
Yeah.
And people just want to be in other people's business. These people aren't your friends. They just want to know what's going on in your life.
Oh my gosh. The amount of hurt that I was because I would talk shit with someone and about everybody. It was our hour and a half coffee and shit sesh.
You've actually talked about this on the pod too.
Yeah. And when I found out that I was also a topic of discussion at a shit sesh with somebody else, the betrayal I felt.
Yep.
I thought that I was above everybody else with this person. Turns out you're not.
Right. Do you think that that speaks on the need to have loyalty from people? And naivete, because you do believe that like your friends are going to be loyal to you and not other people. This kind of leans on ownership of friends and things like that as well. But it's a lot to think about.
It is a lot, yeah.
All right, last one.
Okay.
What do you think? Okay, two things. I am a mini troll on the internet.
Okay.
Not like a troll, like the fucking troll show. Like those are still trolls, but they're this big and they're cute, right? So I mini troll people. And I do it intentionally by doing things like giving a misquoted statistic.
Yeah.
Or I will say something that I already know the answer to, or even that I don't believe in, just to create a conversation to get people to start arguing.
Yeah.
Because then you can have real conversations about other people.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is not gossiping. This is creating a database of information. Okay.
Collecting data. Yeah.
This was, and the reason I said that is because I posed this question to Facebook or to TikTok, and I posed another question as well that I don't know if we'll get into on this one, but what do you think your parents could have done differently to make you a better adult now? We talked about this on the live stream the other day. What was your answer for those who weren't listening?
Boundaries, setting them, maintaining them, not feeling guilty for having them.
A lot of mine comes down to finances.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull up my TikTok that I asked that on.
While you're looking, I'm going to tell a little story.
Go ahead.
One of the reasons that I chose boundaries for that answer is because I people pleased my way into getting raped. I didn't want it, but I was too scared to say no. And it wasn't because this person was scary. This wasn't a bad guy. This wasn't a dude who cornered me in an alleyway. This was somebody that I was talking with. And because I didn't feel comfortable to say that I'm not ready for that, or this isn't something that I want right now, I just remained silent. And I let him do whatever he wanted to do. And it was because I was too scared to set my own boundaries. I didn't know how to. Why are you just looking at me like that?
Because I didn't know if you were going to say something else, and I didn't want to fucking chime in there. And I stopped looking for whatever I was looking for because that's not a story that you can be telling while I'm scrolling on my phone.
Oh.
So
it's just a personal anecdotal, I guess.
Yeah, I put that up. So
okay.
So there's
not an elaboration there.
No, for a reason for you to understand setting boundaries, I can't think of a more perfect explanation for why you should be setting boundaries than that one.
Yeah.
Somewhere on my TikTok, there's a video that I asked that question, and there's thousands of answers. And we were gonna just have an episode where we sat down and read and talked about it.
Oh.
And we can still do that. I need a minute to actually look for the video because I don't know where it was. It was posted. I think it might have been even while we were in Vegas.
Okay.
So, but are you done there? Because I don't want to.
Yeah, that's
I
it.
can't scroll while you're talking like that because I can't ignore that.
That's it. While you're looking for that, I'm going to deal with whatever I'm cooking for you in the crock pot.
All right. So I was wrong. It wasn't posted while we were in Vegas. I actually posted it on Father's Day.
Oh.
And the questions. So Heather B said, My mom, siblings, and I had this conversation the other day. My mom apologized. She didn't teach us to budget, and that has always been my wish. I wish I knew budgeting, money, saving before an adult. Nathan Barry. It's really weird the people that I follow back on TikTok. I don't follow a lot of big creators. I do. Everybody follows their people they enjoy getting content from, but I follow a lot of smaller creators. If they articulate themselves well and they make me think about things and they're polite, I almost always follow them back, especially when they stitch videos and challenge me in a good way. That leaves me feeling good and thinking about what's going on. I always follow them back.
Yeah.
Nathan Barry is one of those people. He actually just bought a Harley. Everybody, congratulations, Nathan. So I don't even think he listens to the Full Length podcast, but he wrote emotional intelligence and the ability to socialize. I can't get to know someone online. It turns into an interview.
Yeah.
So that first statement's huge. The second statement is something to really reflect on. You can't get the ability to know someone online. You shouldn't really be trying to get to know people over the internet. You should be doing that in person. We are able to get more information, having a real conversation, reading body language, seeing what they're paying attention to, learning their character flaws and how they treat other people. Like, there's information that you get from social settings that you don't get one-on-one private interactions.
Right.
Magical Creations wrote, my parents just expected us to do better than them, all while showing the opposite. I hope that makes sense. It does make sense because every parent wants their kids to do better than they did because we don't want our kids to suffer. But unless we do the work to show our kids how to be better, how the fuck do you expect them to do that?
Right.
So from that comment, I actually really went down a rabbit hole there thinking that is the blind leading the blind. If you love your kids and you know that you're trying to provide a better life for them and you want them to do better than you are, you need to take the steps to teach them better than you were taught, which falls into the whole question of all of this.
I think a lot of parents fall short because they want their kids to do better, but either they don't know how to show them to do better or aren't looking into how to teach them better.
Right.
So they follow the same traits or a lighter version, a diet version of how their parents treated them.
Yep, absolutely.
While still wishing better for their kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of men were saying things like how to handle feelings instead of you're not supposed to kind of comments. Genesis said what a good man is. All my mom did was tell me how my dad didn't do anything, and my dad didn't show me or tell me what I should be looking for. They just kind of let me wing it with no advice.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things come down to, the reason for that is that a lot of these things come down to a disconnect. Mm-hmm. We are so disconnected from our parents because of devices now. Most of the people on TikTok are younger people. You know, the whole Gen Xers are the fucking old people of TikTok. But like knowing that.
What year is Gen X?
It ended in 1980. So 60 to 80, I
Okay.
think. 60 to 80, I think is Generation X.
Gotcha.
Then you have the Zennials who are 81 to 85, and then the Millennials are 85 and up. I think that it needs to be, I really think that 80 to 2000 is just such a weird 2 decades that like you have people that were born in that time frame that don't really fall into those categories. But that's irrelevant, I guess. The point is that the younger people who have devices the way that they did, starting with me being born in 1980, I had the Nintendo. Mm-hmm. Go to your room. Get away from me. Go sit in front of the TV. Where's your Saturday morning cartoons? Here's your cereal. Shut the fuck up. I'm going back to bed till noon. Like, that was the beginning phases of letting devices raise your children.
Yeah.
And as those devices got smaller and more compact, then there was Game Boys. Now there's cell phones. There's Nintendo Switches. There's tablets. There's 900 different streaming platforms with all kinds of different shit for kids to watch. Yeah. It's way easier to stick them in front of something than it is to be a parent. We speak on being there but not present, being there but not present all the time on the show. And I think that was actually, there's a fucking gnat flying around me, and I'm afraid I'm gonna take a deep breath and I'm gonna die from a bug, a little tiny gnat.
I mean, he'll definitely die.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about how fragile an upbringing is, and how easy it is to disconnect and forget. Our kids are out there right now with one of our friends, being babysat while we record. It's somebody that I've known for 15 years. Mm-hmm. And she's a very energetic person. kids are having a fucking blast, and the kids wanting to show off their quads and what they're proud of in terms of what's in the garage versus their new video game.
Yeah. Look what I can do outside.
Right. They're playing on a playground right now.
Yeah.
And like they're doing the thing. That means so much to me when I see that, because I don't feel like our kids are just going through the motions with shit.
Yeah. The other day, I told this to the private women's group, and I told you, of course, I took the kids to the pool because I want to teach them to learn how to swim. And it was early, like 9:30 in the morning when we got there. And the only person in the pool was this woman, 70 to 80 years old, just doing her, she had a little board in front of her, just
Exercising.
going back and forth, getting her fitness in. And the kids and I get into the pool, and we kind of hover by the stairs because they're learning to swim, and we're holding on to the side, and we're trying to get used to like laying on the board and getting our balance. And I'm cheering them on, and I'm correcting them. And at one point, the kids wanted to go in separate directions, and I got stern, and I was like, we're not doing this because it's not safe. And I explained to them why it's not safe. And she just kind of observed everything for like 20 minutes, and then she walked away. And I thought she left, but it turns out she went into the bathroom and she changed herself. And she came back out, and before she even started speaking to me, she was very emotional. And she goes, I just want you to know that I wish every child in America has a mother like you. Or I wish every child in America had a mother like you. And I was just so taken aback because that was the last thing I was expecting. And she said, you absolutely made my day watching you interact with your children. And she said that to me, and before I touched my face, I was like, oh my God, I'm crying. Like, I haven't put my head underwater.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really appreciate you telling me that. Like, thank you. And a lot happened in that moment when she told me that. And one of those things was, I guess I don't realize how many mothers are failing their children right now. Because she was worked up over it.
Yeah. She's probably got a grandbaby that is not being loved the way that grandbaby should be loved.
Yeah.
Because you told me when you sent me that text message that you were both emotional, that she was crying and you were crying.
I was crying. The kids had no idea what was going on. It was a lot. I struggle a lot with worrying about being a good mom for them. Especially with me controlling my emotions, and like the kids and I have a safe word now. When one of us out of the three of us is starting to get worked up, we say grapes. It's their favorite food, and it's an easy word to remember. So today we went shopping and we were leaving Publix, and our daughter ran ahead of me and was right on the cusp of the sidewalk into the road. And she started dancing back and forth, and I lost it because there were cars moving, there were people moving. Like, she jumped out into a road, and there was a car coming around that had to slam on their brakes. And I screamed, get over here. And both of the children stopped, and they were up against the wall. And I was like, grapes. And we all started taking deep breaths because I was protective mom. I would never call this kid stupid. But in my mind, are you stupid? Because right. You know better than that. And I'm trying to reel in all of these emotions in me. And I was standing there with my hands on my hips, with my eyes closed, in front of the children. Like, they're against a pillar, and I'm in front of the kids. And I'm just taking deep breaths. And I'm thinking, you're a piece of shit for screaming at the kids the way you just did. You
kept them safe.
I did. But that's the things that I struggle with.
Yeah. Well, having that moment. So we've talked about this too on the podcast. It's like a dad voice, or you screaming in that moment.
Yeah.
Is like an M80 going off. It's literally enough to get their attention. When you tell them afterwards you're not in trouble, I just needed I needed your attention, which is why I raised my voice. That's fine. They understand that. I hear you have that conversation with them all the time. Mm-hmm. And with you're not in trouble right now. You just need to understand. I think that so many of us forget what it is to be caught up in our imagination.
Yeah.
And like to be 6 or 7, 5, 10, whatever, the world hasn't dicked you down yet.
Right. And everything is still fun.
You don't have stress. You don't have to worry about, you're not worried about cars hitting you. Because
you've never been hurt.
Right. So you just are having the time of your fucking life. And so many parents try to destroy that by making sure their kids behave in public, because it's an inconvenience for the other people around them if the kids are being kids. The older you get, the more you realize it's okay for kids to be kids.
Right.
But I think that those are lessons imparted on us by our parents.
Yes.
You know, I want the kids behave. When we're in fucking public, they behave.
Oh, they're so well. We get so many compliments when we're in public.
Right. But I do not let them, I don't suppress their imagination or their
Right.
curiosity. And if they're asking why or well, they want to know how things work, we can take a second.
Yeah.
And if they're afraid, we're not going to fucking ruin the day because they're afraid. Like, we're going to try to work through that fear and try to go on about doing shit. And in some cases, depending on what that fear is, that's our day now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to work through this. Why are you afraid? It's just, you know, whatever. I don't know. I think that shit's super important.
Yeah. I am 100% that mother. Every time we go grocery shopping, they want to sit in the cart that looks like a car.
Yeah. Getting too big for that shit.
They are getting too big for that. Our son got in there and he had to slant his knees. And I was like, oh my God, we're getting up to like the last few times we can do this. And I'm gonna start. I am that mom.
Sorry.
The children will steer and I'm moving the cart the way they're stealing. And if we're running into the cheese, we're fucking running into the cheese. Watch out, guys.
Right.
Incoming. Like, and we will crash and be like, come on, you guys are, I'm going to revoke your driver's license. We're about to get pulled over by an employee. Like, you need to figure out your driving situation. And we're all over the place and we're having fun because I don't want to suppress that imagination in them. But we're also not going to run into the same thing 40 million times because now I'm overriding and I'm driving the car. We will not be a hindrance in public. You are not going to, like, you're going to be situationally aware. That's a very big thing for me with the kids. We are in the wild. There are other people walking around us. We're not going to stand in the middle of the aisle and dance. We're not doing that. If the aisle's empty, then we're good to do that. But if you see somebody come into the aisle, we step off to the side. We're not going to be obnoxiously loud, right? If I'm looking at the shelf and you guys want to hide behind the cart and then jump out and scare me, we'll do that. But we're not going to sit here and scream at each other for 5 minutes straight. There's a very fine line between, in my opinion, supporting the imagination and then just raising hellions.
Right. Well, there absolutely is a difference.
Yeah.
You know that the airplane, the idea of us flying comes from an imaginative mind.
Oh, 100%. Having bicycles,
All of it.
cars.
The idea that we have, and it also comes from risk taking.
Yes.
The idea that we don't have new movies coming out. Everything is recycled now.
Yes.
Movies are being recycled. TV shows are being recycled. Everything is being remade. The classics are being remade, whatever. And I know they've done that throughout the last 100 years, but it's getting more and more common now that that's all that's being released. Everything is a fucking remake or an adaptation of something else.
Or a live action.
And I believe that's because we've lost the ability that it's the crock pot.
Oh, I thought that was the front door.
I believe that that's the outcome of the destroying of the imagination. You couldn't, the cell phone, the iPhone, the iPod, Apple, whatever, none of that would have been able to have been created from somebody who had their imagination destroyed because you have to play pretend in order to design something.
You have to tinker to make it work.
Right. Yep. Let's wrap this one up and then move on to the next one because
Okay.
we got her for another hour and 30 minutes. So.
All right, I'm going to order a pizza real quick.
Okay. With that being said, guys, thanks for tuning in. I know this is not our normal content, but we wanted to have discussion-based conversation today. And there's so many topics that we wanted to do, so we kind of smushed this one. We'll just call this the sandwich episode because we just sandwiched a whole bunch of shit together. You good with that?
I am okay with that, yes.
All right. So enjoy the sandwich, guys. Hope it sustains you, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye, guys.